Hello, everyone. I'm Dominic Copeland, and this is the ish that needs to be said. Why am I wearing this raincoat? I told you last time, my friends, it's about to rain. And I meant that. And that's why I showed up in this raincoat today, because it is raining, both literally and figuratively. We are witnessing things that we have never witnessed before in the history, the modern day history of humanity. It's raining. We are witnessing squalls that are happening out of nowhere, just storms that just out of nowhere start to happen. Then they finish. We've seen that before, but not like this. Thunderstorms all across our country. And here in the Northeast, we haven't experienced things like this on a normal basis. It's raining. We're starting to see prices, as I said before, explode and go out of control. And we're sitting back and saying, what can we do about it? It's raining. We're sitting back and we're seeing the politics within our nation, within our country, within our community explode to a level that we're not able to contain or control or to do something effective about it. It is raining. We are seeing geopolitically our world coming on the verge of perhaps a World War III. Some people might say that's crazy. We won't let that happen. My friends, they said that during the First World War I and World War II. And they found themselves in thunderstorms. It is raining. We are in a dire situation. And even if you don't believe that, I suggest this. Get your ponchos out. Get ready. Do something about it. Don't just sit back and get washed away by the storm and what's coming. Because if we do, we have no one to blame but ourselves. We have to look ourselves in the mirror right now. The ish that needs to be said. Look ourselves in the mirror right now and determine, how are we going to turn this tide? How are we going to push those clouds away? How are we going to get ourselves to a sunny place? Because things won't get better on their own. They have to be made better. So how are we going to come together, each and every one of us, to make this a better situation for each other, for ourselves, for our families? It is raining. It is pouring, and if we're not careful, we're going to be washed away in this tsunami. We're having perfect conditions. The perfect storm is brewing. Everything all at once, everywhere. And it's not the movie. It is not the movie. Everything all at once, everywhere is happening faster than we can do something about it. We went from the pandemic situation to being able to fund our schools, being able to put in different budgets and fund society, to everything now in a deficit just 4 years later. It's only 4 years. It's not even 4 years later, technically. But shortly thereafter, everything has fallen apart, financially especially. We can't even fund our schools, the thing that should be funded the most, the thing that we shouldn't have to worry about, but we've always had to. We've always had to. Why? It's time to wake up. It's time to rise up. It's time to open our eyes. It's time to come together. I'm not here just to complain. I'm not here to complain at all. I'm here, canary in the mine, just throwing out the signal. Get your ponchos ready. It is raining. It's not about to stop. It's about to pick up. It's about to increase. It's about to get worse. And the only way that it gets better is if we come together to do something about it, to make it better. What is our vision for humanity? We have to start there. If we're going to turn this tide, throwing on the poncho, what does that mean? What does throwing on the poncho mean, my friends? It means this. We start with a vision. Because that's what covers us, right? That's what's going to be our guide, our North Star through the darkness, through the rain, through the tsunamis, through the floods, through whatever may come our way. Some people asked in the newspapers, why are these billionaires building these huge shelters? I addressed this before. They're building these huge shelters because historically, everyone looks at the Bible and thinks, oh, the Bible are just these stories. No, the Bible is a historic record. It has been proven to be such that many of the events, if not all the events that happen within the Bible, actually happened, including the floods. And they don't happen by mistake or happen chance. They happen on a schedule. And guess what? Time's up. This is not Dame time. It's time's up. Meaning we're on that course where these events are supposed to happen once again. That we're supposed to be experiencing again historic floods. From the Mayan calendar, it says that humanity has been wiped out several times throughout its history. And this is supposed to be another one of those epochs where that's supposed to happen again. So that's why these billionaires, even if they believe it's not going to happen, if there's a slight chance, and if they look at the historical record and it's telling them that, and they're looking at the weather patterns and they're seeing it starting to increase, it doesn't take a billionaire, it doesn't take a smart person, it doesn't take a Harvard graduate to say, I might want to get my poncho ready. I might want to get prepared. For them, that poncho is the huge shelters that they're building. Because they know there's a great chance that something is coming our way that we are not prepared for, we have not been preparing for, and we have not been doing anything about. So, my friends, I'm asking you just to consider this. What if, just what if these things are true? What if we're experiencing a time in human history that is repeating itself on a cycle? And now we're to the time where that cycle, that time of humanity ends because of the weather patterns. However, the stars are aligned and move, everything else, for some reason, it's all coming together, and it has in the past, and it happens on the schedule, and we're on that schedule now for it to be that time to happen. What just if that's all true? What do we do about it? Do we sit back and do nothing? Do we just hope? Do we pray? Do we get prepared? How do we get prepared? What do we do? Just what if? I'm asking you, just what if? For a second. And we have an opportunity to do something about it before it gets to that point where we can't do anything. We just get swept away in the tide. Now, again, you can say this is lunacy. You can say it's absurd. Just look at the weather patterns and everything happens. And just what if? What if the worst case situation happens? Because me personally, I told you before, I'm a pragmatist, right? So from a pragmatic point of view, I'm going to look at, okay, what's the worst situation that can happen here? Given what's happening and what we're seeing, given what historically has happened, given what is happening up to this point, what is the worst that could happen? And what if that worst does happen? Are we prepared for it? Because if we're prepared for the worst that happens, if it doesn't happen, great. We're prepared for it. Wonderful. Amazing. The poncho, great. We didn't need the poncho. I'm inside. I don't need the poncho. Okay? But we step outside and it's raining or we hit a flash flood or something happens. We need it. We need that protection. We need something there to help us, to get us through the times that are before us. So we can't sit back and say it's lunacy. It won't happen. We don't believe it. It's been proven historically that it has happened several times throughout human history. It's in the human record. You go back, you look at mountains and so forth. If you look at the soil shows throughout human history the times, and the mountains, the times where these historic floods have happened. It's not fantasy, it's reality. So it's not some crazy theory that someone's coming up. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not trying to cause panic and all that other nonsense. It's be prepared for what can happen, what can be. It's happened historically several times, and when the times it has happened, it's wiped out humanity at that point, and humanity itself had to start fresh. Human life had to start fresh from that point of those floods. And we're just getting back now to the record of when the last flood occurred, to figure that it did occur and what human societies existed during that time, many of which have been rediscovered underwater or rediscovered in areas that were abandoned or that were covered up by whether it was mud, by whether sand, whatever it was. We're rediscovering our own history, which has been buried and denied to us because of these changes in the weather patterns. I don't know if we reached a certain point in technology, but we haven't been utilizing it correctly. And so now the record has to be corrected. But I know, I'll say this, I know the ish that needs to be said. So let's say it. Let's say it. So I know humanity's being given a chance to show what it can be. Dinosaurs did not just go extinct by mistake. It wasn't just by chance. We have the opportunity to prove who we can be and what we can be as human beings and as humanity. But if we don't come together to show that, to prove that, we're not going to be given that chance and that opportunity. Another thing, by coming together, by deciding that there's greater factors that are against us, there's a greater enemy at hand that's capable of wiping us out without even striking a single blow against us, without any weapons that have been manufactured by any other man or anyone else, that nature itself could be a weapon that's utilized against us to destroy us. The only way we can change that is to come together. Come together and decide the best interests of humanity as a whole and how we're going to carry forward and what that means, what that looks like. And act in the best interest of humanity. And at that point, my friends, we are enlightened. And instead of going to potential extinction, we go into enlightenment. And we're given the opportunity to grow and progress from there. And we acquire more tools. We acquire more capabilities. We acquire greater opening of the human potential. These are all the things that are right before us, potentially. So one path, we don't make it. Another path, we are risen. We become more than what we were before. We rise to another level of human potential. We have potentially the greatest potential designed within us. But if we choose not to lock that because we're fighting over nonsense, we're fighting over scarcity, we're fighting over not the best interest, but special interest. I'll tell you this now, there are no interests right now aligned for the wills and the say of the people. Not the political interest, not the business interest. None of those interests are aligned in the betterment or the success of humanity, that humanity will thrive and survive and grow and be enlightened and get better. None of their interests are aligned with that. Corporate interests are about the money. They're about the profit. Even if it means the destruction of everything else, if they have profited, they have succeeded. If they have profited, they have succeeded. Governmental interests, it's about the survival of the governmental interests, not about the individuals within it, not about the people. So, and they can be influenced by the corporate factor, by the special interest, by the money. So we're seeing all that converge today in the situations that we have. It is raining. We need our ponchos. We need to come together. We need the vision for what humanity can and will be. Not what this country can be, that country can be, not what this individual, not what the United States of America can be, not what London can be, not what China can be, but what we as a united humanity, the planet Earth, we as the representative of the planet Earth, what can we be? Because until we come together and forge that vision, we will not make it, and we will not be allowed to grow and to be enlightened. Because we have not come together as a humanity, as a one society. We are a society. It might be made up of different beliefs, different mindsets, but it's one society. If I came here from another planet and I look down, this is one planet, it's Earth. These are all human beings. There's no other species of intelligence. There's no other race of intelligence that's here. the human race. They all look the same. They're different colors, but they all look the same. They all have the same parts. They all function the same. They all have brains. They all have hands, 2 feet, 1 body. All the same race. It's not a different race, not a different species. And if we don't understand that, we will not survive. We will not thrive. So now's the time. It's raining. It is raining. What are we going to do about it? What is our vision? Who do we want to be and become as humanity? Who do we want to put out to the rest of the universe that we are and that we're about? What is the poncho that's going to be representing us? What is it going to say? Stand tall, my friends. Stand together. Stand with each other. Let's not just weather the storm. Let's dictate the weather that comes before us. Let's dictate what stands before us. And let's dictate who we choose ourselves to be. If humanity were to come together, the knowledge, the things that we could do would be phenomenal. Just think about this. Just think about it. One of the greatest drawbacks to humanity is our lifespan and what we do within that lifespan. Now, the stories in the Bible that we all find hard to believe, I find hard to believe too. But there's been so many other stuff in the Bible that's proven to be true. I'm thinking to myself, I have to allow, at least potentially, for this to be true as well. In the Bible, it gives several stories of human beings that lived for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. But it also gives with most of those individuals that lived that long, many of them did self-destructive things, and they were just about power. They were just about more enslaving and more gaining riches than they were about the best interests of humanity. So therefore, if it's me or if it's a higher power, you cannot give that advantage of time, because within that time, there's so many things that if you're able to live for a couple hundred years, there's so much knowledge and things that you've grown and increased and you're capable of understanding and doing, and things that you can create and develop and grow over time. Whole organizations, whole societies. You know where all the bodies are buried, literally. You know where things have been done that people have forgotten or have not lived to even understand, because their lifespan's 40 to 80 years or so, but you have a few hundred. So humanity, that's one of the problems that I find with us as a humanity. We don't have a united vision that carries across all of humanity. We don't even have united knowledge for the most part that carries across all of humanity. The knowledge from 500 years ago is not knowledge that we're utilizing today, or that we might even comprehend or know today. The technology they had back then, the same thing, or even from thousands of years ago. They may have had technology that was online or on par with our technology. In some ways, they have found things that they can't explain, technologies that should not exist. And no one's unsure of how that happened. But our lifespans do not allow for us to create those dynastic understandings of humanity, that knowledge building, those things that we 500 years ago started and said we wanted to become or build as humanity, and now we can see to fruition today. But if you go by the Bible, when it had people that lived that long, that's not what they did. They did not increase humanity. They just sought to empower themselves. They sought, quote unquote, their belief of power. So what can we do to change that? And I'm asking that here now because even from knowledge from 50 years ago to today, we keep repeating ourselves instead of taking that knowledge from 50 years ago and utilizing it today to grow ourselves. Even in the fight for civil rights, instead of understanding how that came about and that be knowledge that's passed on to the next generation, it was to a point, and then We don't have that knowledge anymore. We have to go back and repeat those same lessons to such degree where people were saying to me during George Floyd and his tragic death and everything that the riots and everything else, the movement for change that happened after that, people were saying to me, well, don't you think this time is different? And I just had to scratch my head because I said, since slavery, people were asking that same question. Don't you think this time is different? Don't you think this time is different? And we've never looked at the factors, the underlying factors that say to us that, no, it's not different, that this happens in cycles, so that we can change that cycle so that something better can happen or become of it, so that we can get the results that we truly desire instead of laying back and saying, oh, look what's happening here. It's changing. It's getting better. I don't need to do anything. No, you should be saying, look what's happening here. It's the same as the other cycles that happened. So how did we in human history get past this repeating cycle to something better and beyond that? And if we couldn't find a human record where we did it, how can we do it now? But because the knowledge of humanity is so chunked and hidden or destroyed, we don't have an understanding of that. What were the greatest societies and how they got that way? And what made them fall? Some of that we have, but even those many movements in there, there's plenty of those that happen. You look at Ray Dalio, he's someone that has gone back through some of the human history, through some of the human record. I wish we had more of it that he could go back through. And he's able to point out these cycles and what typically happens within these cycles and how they come about and why they come about. All the things that we're experiencing, they're not brand new. They go in cycles to some degree. There might be new technology that's involved in it, but every so often we get to a point where humanity has fallen off a cliff, new humanity arises, and new humanity has forgotten all the experiences, all the knowledge from the prior humanity, or they have not been allowed access to it, or it's been destroyed. And so they start over, and then they start to understand, oh, there was prior societies that existed and that had these things and that did these things, and they disappeared and they went away because of this. But by the time they get there, they're back in a cycle where they're experiencing the same thing. Or they might have had a power grab, and all of a sudden, instead of humanity growing, it lessens itself. And maybe it's on purpose. Maybe it's on purpose. Maybe they're saying, like I said, you know, with some of my family and some of the things that I've been through in my own experiences, I didn't want my kids exposed to that because I thought that would corrupt them. Or I thought maybe they would lean in that direction because they've seen this and now they know about it. But in reality, if you don't know those lessons, if you haven't seen that, then you're more likely to repeat them instead of grow from them. The goal is to have that knowledge so that we can grow from it. A lot of the knowledge has been hidden and kept away from us for one reason or another, but without that knowledge, we cannot hit enlightenment. Because a lot of these things that have happened before, happened already. A lot of technologies, and when we look at the technologies with Tesla and the electronic vehicle knowledge, that wasn't new either. Nikola Tesla, the original Tesla, had actually created many of those things himself and invented many of those things himself. Now, they might have gone and approved upon it and so forth, but that knowledge was there. And that knowledge probably came to him from somewhere else as well. This knowledge should be thousands of years old before we even understood that it was a possibility. Hundreds of years at least. Maybe there were societies that fully utilized, as we started to see in some of the drawings that we get from ancient ancient Egypt, where it looks like they might have had light bulbs or technology to utilize light bulbs and have a connection to electricity. And they've gone back and created some experiments to show that was highly possible. So electricity itself isn't something that we necessarily came up with in modern times. It was something that might have existed thousands of years before us. But we lost those lessons and had to rediscover them. Imagine if we had those lessons all along. and we had the moral virtues and values to utilize that information productively for the best interest of all humanity. Just imagine what if we as a humanity had our ponchos for when it was raining, and we took all the knowledge that we have now, make sure that knowledge continues forward, even if we ourselves do not. But if we can make sure that we do, hopefully we do, and the knowledge does, now we have a chance to hit enlightenment, to go above and beyond where we stood before, with the understanding that if we don't, it could be detrimental. I believe that the last part of the puzzle for us is not the technology, it is our moral aptitudes. Because even with the story that fire was not permissible for human beings to utilize, because they didn't want fire to be a non-productive force, to be a destructive force even. You have to have the moral aptitude to understand how to utilize the technology and tools that you have. Technology itself is not necessarily evil or bad, but how we utilize it can and will be, if we don't have that moral aptitude to say no and to build in the safeguards so it doesn't happen. I think that's many people's fear with AI, artificial intelligence, because with the artificial intelligence, the issue we face there, it can be used anyway. So people can utilize it. And most people, if they have power unchecked, they will use it toward corrupt aims. They will use it towards things that will hurt other people, because those things will benefit them, but not benefit society as a whole. There are people who are willing to destroy society itself as long as they benefit from it. We cannot allow those people to be our leaders, to be our heroes. We cannot allow those people to be the ones that are in charge to fulfill the mission. And that mission for humanity is enlightenment. Our time is now. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. There's no cavalry. No one else is coming to the door. All we got is our ponchos, my friends. Let's put together this vision. Let's get into it. And then let's start to move forward. What is the vision for humanity? Not one country, but for humanity as a whole. Think of it, someone's coming from another planet. There's a federation. Let's do it like Star Trek. There's a federation of planets. They're coming to Earth. What are you Earthlings about? What are we going to say at that point? What is our vision? What binds us together? What are we moving towards? How are we going to open up those channels for us to be enlightened? For other worlds to say, hey, it makes sense for us to work with you. It makes sense for us to trade with you. It makes sense for us to build with you and allow you to build with us, to be a part of our international, intergalactic communities. Because we know you'll do the right things with the technology. We'll know that you won't harm us. We'll know that you'll be a partner. I don't know if we can say that, because we can't say that to our neighbors. And we keep fighting each other today unnecessarily, instead of coming together to build and grow our resources so that we never have to worry again about a lack of resources, because we have an abundance of resourcefulness. I went deep in this. You might have to go back and watch this again and listen to the things that I'm saying, because I'm saying some stuff that you might not completely comprehend that I'm saying right now, but one day you're going to, and one day soon. One day soon. So, my friends, this is Dominic Copeland. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. Let's build this community together. Let's start to build that vision together. Let me know what should be part of the vision of humanity. What's going to carry us forward into enlightenment so that we can be a part of a greater galactic vision. Let's come together, my friends. Now's the time. This is a place. We are the ones. I'm Dominic Copeland. This is the ish that needs to be said.